Well, welcome back everyone to another fine episode of Fear and Loathing in Peter's Tech Shack. And I've got some good news to report this time. If you remember in the last episode, I had found my wonderful prototyping card for the Apple II. And I was trying to figure out how to boot up this West PC motherboard, which I have figured out now some interesting details about. These were clone motherboards made in Taiwan, and they were used by various clone manufacturers, including West PC. This was known as the GTAC2 motherboard style because it also had the Z80 processor next to the 6502, which I've currently removed because I was debugging. Now, I did run into some problems. I did have some bad RAMs, I thought. I'm pretty sure they were bad, but I just did not know if they were good or bad. So I had to test those things, and in doing so, like an idiot, I accidentally plugged two of them in backwards, and I knew I blew them up. So in order to test all the RAMs, I built this cool little module right here, which is basically a small little DRAM tester. Let me show you this thing for the Arduino. And you can, someone had it on eBay, the last board, but you can pull these down and get the boards made. They're just a piggyback board that goes in on Arduino. You load the software into the Arduino, which you can get from a GitHub site. And then you can basically test the RAMs right in there. It tells you good or bad. You see the LEDs, green is good, red is bad. It tests 4164s and 41256s, and the newest firmware automatically recognizes what chip it is. So I went through and instead of going through and testing, I knew the ones were bad, I tested them, they were bad, I threw them out. I pulled all the other ones, and I just happened to find a beautiful set of 4164s on this old ISA card for the XT series PCs. It was an old communications card. It actually ran on a Z80 and it had the SCC and a bunch of cool Z80 stuff, which I'm going to scarf off this thing to build some more Z80 boards later. But you can see I pulled the RAM out. It had actually 9 chips. So I pulled the 8 chips out. I tested each and every single one of them, and then I went ahead and inserted them in the motherboard. And also I finished up a portion of my ROM card, so you can see my prototyping work there, my fine prototyping work, what I explained how that works in the previous video. It's just basically kind of like wire wrap, but you punch it down with a tool. And I found my tools and everything, so I built this card just like West PC's ROM card, and I burned, there's 2 ROMs that are supposed to go on here, so I only burned the monitor ROM. And I burned the AppleSoft Auto Start monitor ROM in here. Yes, copyright infringement. Okay, hey, I'm just playing around here hacking. Plus, I think they released the ROMs now. Anyway, so I burned the Apple monitor ROM in here, not knowing that if you don't have the AppleSoft Basic in there, it won't work. But it wouldn't boot up anyway. It would basically give me something like this. It would just come up with goobly gop. And so after trying a few things and trying to test everything, I went ahead and decided let's abandon this in case I screw this up and stuff that BrainBoard that I ordered right here. This is a cool board. The BrainBoard was designed by Mike. I'm sorry if I screw up your name, Mike. Mike Wheeligal. And basically, it's a cool board. And this other gentleman here, Alex, he redid this new one here so you can put a bigger EEPROM in it. And what this allows you to do is run various versions of ROM images, and depending on how you set the dip switches and how you flip the switch, it does different things, including it will allow your Apple to come up and emulate an Apple I, which is what I'm going to try next, because then you can run a lot of old Waz's stuff and come up just like the original Apple I. Anyway, the cool thing about this is it has the firmware in it, and I was told that this would work in place of this, and sure, I tried it, and no dice at all. Same thing. I'm like pulling my hair out. I went and checked all the ICs, and finally I was going to give up. I said, you know what? let me start pulling some ICs and replacing them, and just to see what happens. And with my luck, of course, I decided to pull this chip right here, which is a 245, LS245. And I know that that chip and these chips here, these 360, I think they're 374s, they run the address and data buses coming out of that 6502. They're basically drivers. And I thought, well, let me just swap that and see what happens. And guess what? The moment I swapped that, it worked. And let me show you. So let me show you what I did. I put my, oh, one more thing. Let me explain to you how this motherboard works. So it's very intriguing, because if you look, I was puzzled because it doesn't have 7 slots. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it does have 7. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But this one here is a special slot. It's not slot 0 like you think on an Apple. So this was called their firmware slot. It doesn't actually, it's not really an Apple slot, because this slot here it has some special decoding on it for their firmware card. So slot 0 doesn't exist here because they use 64K of RAM. So basically slot 0 that was mostly used for the language card or the RAM card is built in on the logic circuitry on this motherboard already. So they didn't need a slot 0 for a RAM card because the RAM card's built in. So there is no slot 0. So you start off with this one here, which is the slot for the firmware ROMs. Then you got slot 0, 1, 2, 3. There is no slot 4, 5, 6. I think that's how it works. I think it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah, it's 0. That's what it was. It's 0, which was this one. Then 1. This is slot 1, because 0 was actually on the board, okay? So there's no slot 0. So this is slot 1. 2, which you use for a printer. 3. Okay, 4 is not there because 4 was normally used, and it's because of the way CPM required it. 4 on a regular Apple was normally used for the Z80 card, the Microsoft Z80 card. But because they got the Z80 on the board, again, slot 4 is built in. So we got slot 1, 2, 3, 4 built in, 5 for like a video card, 6 and 7 for your drives. And that's how they did it on this. So what I did is I took basically my wire wrap card and I shoved it into the language card slot, or I'm sorry, the firmware slot's what they call it. And I gave it a shot, and this is what I got. Apple II. However, there's no AppleSoft prompt. And even when I reset it, it wouldn't come to a prompt. And the reason being is, I thought about it for a second. I was kind of shocked. And also, if you'll notice, the font ROM still needs to be fixed because I haven't had time to do that. Let me turn the light off so you can see better. So the font ROM's not there, but I'll change that later, fix the font up, it'll be fine. But there's no prompt. And the reason being is I haven't burned the other AppleSoft language EEPROM. I need a 2764. I got to go hunt one down in the shack. Once I do that, you can see the wiring. I already have it going to right here, so it'll be placed right in these sockets right here, and then this one should work fine. So this will be their little, same thing that they have. It's just a firmware card. However, to try it out anymore, I decided I wanted to try the BrainBoard on it because someone told me it would work. So I put the BrainBoard here in the slot 1, and I fired it up. And bam, look at that, integer basic, with the integer basic prompt. See that? Is that cool? Now, if I flip the switch on this guy, on the BrainBoard, I can flip this switch, and it should switch the language to the other portion of the ROM, which is AppleSoft. Oh, wait, my bad. I got it programmed differently. That's right, on this one, you have to flip dip switch to. What that other switch does is bring you into some strange portion of the ROM, which I don't think I programmed. All right, so let's see here. I got to flip dip switch 2. Put some light on the subject here. Put some light on the subject. All right, dip switch 2. We'll flip it there. That should choose the Apple Soft ROM. Put it back in. So we got it back in there. And let's see what happens. There it is, Apple II with the Apple Soft prompt. Obviously, it didn't detect floppy drive cards, so it went right to the prompt. I'll put the floppy card in later and see if we can boot some floppies. And of course, I don't have a keyboard on it yet, so that's something else that's got to be fixed. I got to come up with a keyboard interface, and maybe I'll use the one that goes PS2 to Apple, so I can run a regular keyboard. Not have to futz with trying to find an Apple keyboard. But hey, so far it's living, it's alive. And I will do another update once I get the font cleaned up, maybe a drive on there so we can play some games or something and exercise this thing. I'm definitely going to see if the hardware test stuff that Apple makes works on it, see if I can test the RAMs and everything. But that's where I'm at. I wanted to give you an update. Don't want to make this video too long, but it looks like the West PC or GTAC2 clone is working. An old motherboard from 1984 probably, and it's working just fine. Take care, you guys. We'll see you next time.